call your city council. If your pastor ain't here today, just ask them. And I'm going to repeat the term because we heard the tape, as council said. Nigga, open the door. Now, I don't use that term. That's the most hatred-filled word in the American language. They were talking about a veteran who fought for his country. Ask your mayor, ask your city councilman, is that appropriate police behavior? And if it's not, then they should be fired. Where you at? Hold them accountable. Remember those words, nigga, open the door. We got to hold them accountable for that. Next, we have another council who dared to risk his profession, like the other council is titled. Mr. Mayo Bartlett is here to represent this family, and we need to know when council take on these kind of jobs, they're not welcome in the red carpet at the Courthouse of Justice, but I have to respect them, Mr. McLaughlin, Mr. Bartlett, because they have not backed down. They've given us true legal representation. Mr. Bartlett.
Mr. Bartlett.
Before we consider anything else, we have to ask ourselves a fundamental question. If you have a medical emergency, should you end up dead because the police come to your home? That's the fundamental question. Before we get to anything else, before we get to issues of race, how is it that when the police arrive at your home in response to what they believe is a medical emergency, how is it that you end up dead? Now, Mr. Chamberlain didn't call the police. We believe that he may have erroneously pushed his button when he was sleeping at 5 o'clock in the morning in the sanctity of his home. And Life Alert, the Life Aid system, contacted him, attempted to contact him, and contacted the police. We have no problem with that. Where we take issue is that once the police arrived at his house, they asked him, is he okay? And he said, I'm fine. Now, some of these officers claim that they knew Mr. Chamberlain. So it's not a question of who you're talking to. They knew they were talking to a 68-year-old man who had a heart condition and emphysema. So if you know that, and you know who you're speaking to, it should be over at that moment. You know you're talking to Mr. Chamberlain. He says he's fine. You should wish him well and leave. But let's even look at it further. It's not one officer going, saying, well, gee, I don't have anyone else to confirm what happened here. You got firefighters there, police officers, EMS workers there, probably a dozen people on the scene. All the people had to do, all these officers had to do was document that they spoke to Mr. Chamberlain. He denied any need for medical attention, and he could have gone about their business. At that time, had Mr. Chamberlain passed away, we would not be here right now complaining about the actions of law enforcement. But instead, they began to bang on his door. Not knocking on his door as you would if you're going to visit someone, banging on a metal steel door with a metal object over and over and over again in an effort to taunt him, telling him, open the door. You're a grown-ass man. Come on, open the door. Let me come in and use your bathroom. And at some point when Mr. Chamberlain says, sir, I'm a 68-year-old man. I'm an old man with a medical condition. They say we don't give an F and call him the N-word. And we don't get that information by talking to neighbors who were there. We get the information because it's on recording. It's on an audio tape. I heard it twice. If it's on an audio tape, it's not open to debate. So now we're in a position where these officers have to try to come up with a plausible explanation as to how you're treating a member of society in this fashion. Well, it was suggested that the N-word is a tactic used to distract people. If you are a Jewish person, is an anti-Semitic slur just an appropriate way to distract you?
No.
And to distract you from what?
You'd be in court.
If you're a Latino, is an anti-Hispanic term an appropriate way to distract you? If you're a woman, is being called a derogatory term against women a means of distraction? Or is that a way to escalate situations? Is that a form of abuse? In fact, if we were to stand out here right now and use that language and yell that language, we could be arrested for disorderly conduct. Now, when you swear to protect, when you put that uniform on, and when you take an oath as an elected official, you are not taking that oath only to prosecute people who do not wear a badge and do not carry a gun. You take that oath to prosecute crime. You take that oath to enforce the laws and to enforce disciplinary proceedings against anybody who violates the law. Apparently that doesn't happen because if you have a badge and you have a gun, you get a free pass. When you yell racial slurs at someone and threaten that person, that's aggravated harassment. It's codified as a hate crime under the Hate Crime Act of 2000 in the state of New York. But apparently that law only applies to certain individuals in the community. It brings you back to the book Animal Farm. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Well, that's unacceptable. Now, if you look at the individuals who are here right now, we have a very diverse group of individuals, representative of the population of the city of White Plains, who are concerned. And we're concerned not just that Mr. Chamberlain was killed, but we also are concerned because we have the realization that everyone from the smallest child to the oldest person in the community is subject to the exact same treatment. And if it was to happen to any of us, there's a good likelihood that it would mean nothing, especially if it's not on videotape or audio tape. And even when it is, it very well may mean nothing. And again, we have to remind ourselves of what happened to Romali Graham, what happened to DJ Henry, what happened to Christopher Ridley, what happened to Irma Marquez, who was a 50-year-old plus woman who was in a bar and who was frantic because her niece was having a medical emergency and somehow ended up being lifted upside down and slammed down on her face by the Yonkers police in this case, and having